Okie dokie. If you go to today's Moodle page, I've uploaded a couple of new things you need to be aware of. First of all, I have a text file that has all the information, the text information that goes on your page. I also have a picture called Ticket Border, and this is what we're going to use to create a custom frame from. We'll get to that once in a couple of minutes. There is one new exercise, and this is creating type lines, line or type that's going to follow a line, and I'll show you exactly what to do and how to work with that. So let's look at our templates. Let's look at what we're working with. Remember, for this design, I want you to use this template. Everything has to be in its proper place. You've got the picture here with Dixie National Radio, and you've also got your information down and off to the side. Let me show you how I've designed mine out. This was my design solution for this one. We'll go into preview mode just so we can see everything. Now yours, I don't want yours to look like mine. You've got your style, your design to work with. But notice, things are in their proper place on each side. It doesn't have to be bound within a box itself. Notice this is more open type, and I'm just using the background as the ground for this particular text. What I'm going to show you today, somewhere on your design you need to have text that's following a path. Now what I've done is I've drawn off a line and I've typed along this line. If you don't know how to do it, this is what the exercise is going to show you how to do. It doesn't have to be this, this subhead, the largest rodeo in the South. You can add this as part of your title, or you can add it as part of the information on here. It doesn't even have to go in this particular place. I'm going to leave that up to you. You also need to have, this is a custom-made frame that has information inside of it as well. So let's jump in and learn how to put type on a path. This is where your exercise comes in. We'll open it up. It's relatively simple. There's just a few things you need to be aware of if you've never done this before to make sure that everything is okay. I've given you this, this template. Just to give you a heads up, this template has two different layers on it. Layer 1 is all the text that's on the background. I want you to work in layer 2. Layer 1 is locked down. So in layer 2, the first thing you need to do is to redraw each of the lines. What's the best tool to draw a line with? Pen tool. So this is going to give you practice using the pen tool. Straight lines are relatively easy. One click on each side and you're good to go. If you hold down your shift key, you'll get a little straighter line. To put type on a line, we're going to use our type tool, but we're not going to use the regular type tool. With this one, you have to draw a box. With this one, type on a path tool, you can click on a line and add the text to this one. Look very closely at my little icon. See how it's got the crossbar? If I bring it in close to the line itself, now I've got a little plus mark on the right hand side. When you see that, you can click, and now you've got your blinking cursor. You can actually start adding text to it. So let's type that out. The quick brown fox, easy dog. I do give you the formatting that this needs to be, and yours isn't going to be perfect. I don't want it to be exactly on top of mine. If it's close enough, as long as it fits, that's really what I'm looking for. But let's change the formatting. It needs to be 25 points, and it needs to be impact font. Cool. So this works out really well. As with this one, you can always click and move it around, and it stays with the line itself. Notice, however, I still have my line underneath it. With it selected, you can turn off your line by just changing the color or the fill of the line, and so now you're left with only the text to work with. Let's try a difficult one. Try a curved text. Grab your pen, draw it off. Like I said, it's going to be off by a little bit. You can use your white arrow to clean up the line, try to make it a little bit better, make the world a happier place. There we go. Use your type on path tool, click once. I'm going to copy and paste this since it's relatively the same thing. Copy it, go back to here, paste it. Alright, and copy all of it. There we go. Key quick. With the type on the path, just like with any other type tool, you can select it and edit the text. You can change the alignment, so if I wanted it to be centered within this line, you can do center alignment, right justification, anything that you normally would do within a text box, you can do within a type line as well. But there are some things that you need to pay attention to. I'm going to choose my direct selection tool. With it selected, notice that there's some lines, long lines at the beginning and some long lines at the end of your type path. This is the opening and closing of the path. If I click on these lines, I can change where it will start and stop. And so if you ever draw a line and you don't have enough room or you extend a line out, you may also need to extend the opening and closing side of it as well. If you look very closely, it's a little bit difficult to see here. There's a small red line here also. You can click this one and drag it and be able to move it around. This will come in handy once we start getting down here. There's even more options to be aware of. This will come in handy once we start changing these. To open up the options for typing on a path, you can find it in Type, Type on Path, and Options. Here's what these allow you to do. First of all, if you wanted to flip it, instead of typing on this side of the line, I wanted to be on the bottom side. Choose Flip, and it'll automatically flip to that particular side. Very simple. Another thing is some of the different effects. These won't really come in handy, but watch what Skew allows it to do. With Skew selected, it makes everything parallel to, well, not parallel, just straight up and down to the area we're working with. Whereas if it's regular rainbow, it stays this way, perpendicular to it. 3D ribbon, not going to change it up. Tell you what, we'll keep these pretty much the same for now. I will show you the alignment for the baseline. If I was to change it to the center, it's going to align it to the center of actually what the type it is. In this case, it's off by just a little bit, but it's aligning to that. The descenders, notice now the little Q is at the very base of this line and everything else is bumped up a little bit, or even the ascender, which will put it below, and then everything that's above that one. Not going to be really changing it up all too much. We're going to keep everything at the baseline. Let's try this third one, because this is going to be the most complex. I'm going very quickly just for the sake of time. Remember, you can hold down your Option key or your space bar, and that'll allow you to move different things around. Get your line as close as possible to what it should be. I'm not going to worry with that too much. We'll copy and paste. Right here at the beginning, paste it. Change up the size of it to be 40 so it wraps all the way around. Okay, here's the fun part. Let's open back up those options that we were working with. Type, on path, options. If I change the effect to Skew, now check out what's happening. It's following the line and it's skewing it almost as if it's a ribbon type of effect. Notice that when it starts to go backwards, even the text is following it backwards as well. So that comes in handy every once in a while. 3D ribbon, it's rotating the text in 3D type space. Stair steps will give you this type of effect, almost as if it's a stair-stepping effect. And gravity, sometimes they get really weird. Yeah. Very rarely do I use some of these effects. I usually either keep it ribbon or Skew, just depending on my needs for what it has to be. I think Skew is pretty cool, especially once it starts wrapping around that way. Let's see. We'll set that back to rainbow. Now you can type on shape layers that you created. Notice that this is only half of a circle, and here's the bottom half of this circle. Here's two circles with this one. So rather than using your pen tool, you can use just a regular ellipse tool and draw off the circle the size that you need. There we go. If I wanted to cut this in half, there's a pair of scissors right here. Think of the scissors as being just like a cutting a string. Clicking on this point and this point cuts it in half. Now I've got two different lines to work with. Pretty cool? One line and the other line. Choose your type tool. However, watch what happens when I start to type on this one. I've clicked, and if I paste it, notice where my starting point is for this one. Why do you think it's starting over here and not on this side where I typed? Y'all give me your thoughts. Okay, I will tell you if y'all give up. The line is going to start wherever you start drawing the line. So if I clicked on here and I actually drew off this line to this point, it would work fine. The circle, however, started at this point and was drawn down and then back around. So when I cut it, the starting point is actually over here. So what I need to do is to be able to flip it. So this is where flipping comes in hand. Object, type on path, options. Now we need to flip it back into place. I do have a little bit more text than is necessary. We'll say OK to that. So I can select out the rest of this type. Over the lazy dog. Use your white arrow. Notice that I need it to be centered, so I can either choose center alignment, or I can bring this back up. Click on my little red line here. Carefully click on the red line, and then I can drag it into place for it to be at the right spot. Here's another quick little tip. If you click on the center point and drag down, it'll automatically flip it over as well. So that little center point is very, very important to know when working within this one. Same thing for this bottom one. With it selected, you may not have to flip it. Flip it good. Format it, impact. I believe it's 25 point, yeah. In this case, I obviously need to turn on the skew. There we go, center alignment, skew. And that's where our options come in handy for this one. And that'll line up for that one. I'll let y'all figure out on doing the rest of these as well. I will give you one fair warning. If you draw off a shape and you just choose your regular type tool and start to type inside of it, your text won't follow the line. Instead, it'll fill inside the area itself. This is why it's important to use the other type tool, the type on path tool, because the regular type tool is only going to stay constrained within whatever shape that you created. Questions on this one? Simple, simple stuff. This is what I want you to do. In some way, add type to a line to whatever design that you have for your design. In my case, I added it right there. It seemed to fit out really, really well. Here's the second thing that you need to add to your particular poster, and that's a customized frame. I'll turn this off back to normal preview mode, and we'll move it out of the way. Now, we do have some regular made frames, a rectangle, an ellipse, and of course the polygon. So when I say a frame, what I'm really saying is an area that you can put a picture into, or you can put text into. But what I want to have is one that I can control my own particular frame to. And that's where this comes in handy. When you download the ticket border text, I've got 5 pre-made frames that I want you to use in your design somehow. So we're going to drop that into our box. Got my little picture box that I'm working with. Command D. Got it saved to the top. And we'll open it up. I'm going to scale this down by hitting my fit to frame proportionally. So remember, I've got 5 of them in here. Which one do y'all like? Y'all give me your input. This one? Okay, let's go with this one. Real simple, that one. A common problem that a lot of people want to do is they've got this great picture, but they want to remove the background. They need it to be transparent. So in other words, we want to remove the white area that's inside of this picture. Here's how we're going to do it. We're going to clip out the white area by using what's called a clipping mask. I'll zoom in so we can see it a little bit better. So with this selected, go to Object, Clipping Path, and we're going to open up the options. By default, there is no clipping path, but we're going to let the computer do the work and detect the edges of whatever picture that we're working with. So turn on Detect Edges, and automatically you can start to see it's starting to figure out where the black and white areas of the entire picture are. Now you can change the black and white point. In this case, it's only black and white, so I'm going to pull this one down to 0. And now it's starting to really find that edge. You can pull the black point up even further. If you don't have it, you can see it's going to get some really weird type of creations going on here. So we're going to keep that really low. Another thing we want to do, if you look and notice that it's also getting the other frames that are within our area, and we only want to use this one. So I'm going to restrict it to the one that's in the frame. By turning this on, now only this one is the one that's going to be affected. When we say OK, now I've got my black area clipped out, but if I wanted to change the picture, change everything up, I need to actually make it into a frame itself. Remember, our frame is still the rectangle. So I'm going to select it again, go back to the clipping path options, and here is where we can convert the path to an actual frame. And now this is what we've got. The frame itself is following the clipping path that we created. And the picture is still inside of it. So now I can actually move it around. I can put anything inside of this, or I can get rid of the frame altogether, or the picture altogether, and then choose a different color that matches whatever my color profile I'm working with. Let's make it a fill color. Who did I lose? Who did I lose? Any questions on this one? Pretty cool. You can make your own custom frame if you wanted to. Don't feel like you have to use one of the 5 that I gave you. Those are just really easy and they happen to fit this area really well. Here's the real power of using a clipping mask. Let's say somebody gave you a picture that looked like this, and these are common stock type photos. It's someone with a white border on the background. And this is a guy who wakes up really early and comes to 8 o'clock classes happy as a lark. Everybody hates this guy. But this is a common type problem. How do you get rid of the white border in InDesign so that it's transparent? Same way with this one. White border around her, transparent. If I was to load it into InDesign, drop it off, let's see, yeah, this guy. Of course I can place it and resize everything to fit. If I let the computer do the clipping path for me, we'll turn on Detect Edges. Very, very quickly, it's just going to erase away the border. It's going to look at that contrast between the edges. Notice, however, it's not picking up that inside, so we're going to include the inside edges. And now it picks up that inside edge as well. And it's just a easy, quick way of doing it. But do notice, because there's white areas there, it's also picking up inside of his shirt. Later on, we'll learn how to do a clipping mask that's specific to what you need. But this is just a quick and easy way of doing this one. If I had to do the other person, hers is going to be a little bit more difficult because she's wearing something that's very white, so I have to be very conscious about what I get rid of in hers. Object, clipping path options. When I detect these edges, that's actually doing a pretty good job. But if I change up my tolerance, you can see very quickly I get rid of her picture simply because she's wearing white. So if you were a designer, you would want to tell this person, hey, I need you to stand in front of a blue border or a green screen, or have them change clothes altogether so that there's more contrast between your foreground and your background. Contrast is very, very important when working with it. Okay, so for your design, you see how I've done my design. I don't want yours to look anything like mine. I want to see your idea for creating this poster. I've given you the text to download, so make sure that it's got all the ticket information, it's got the correct secondary information, it's got some sort of line type on there, and that you're using both templates. So you've got a template here that's landscape, and you've also got some information that's in a different aspect ratio as well. Any questions before I turn it over to you? Alrighty.